Hi, I'm Damon Pohl, and welcome to another Versus episode. Today I've prepared a feast of manga about ramen shops and cat chefs. We'll talk about kitchens, cuisine, and the conventions of comic creation. These tales will keep you warm in the cold weather. They are pleasant and humorous stories that are easy to read and enjoy. Please support your local artists and publishers, and request these comics if they are not yet available in your area. Now that the broth is boiling, let's get started with Neko Ramen versus Ramen Aka Neko. Part 1. The Overview. Ramen noodles originated in China, which is why it is often written using katakana, Japanese characters reserved for loanwords and foreign languages. The word ramen comes from the Chinese ramyun, meaning pulling noodles. Ramen in Japan dates back to the late 19th century. By the 1950s, instant ramen was invented, making the food more accessible and easily sold to a global market. Ramen is now a staple of Japanese cuisine, with tens of thousands of restaurants across Japan and many regional specialties. Manga readers will be familiar with ramen, seeing depictions of the dish in comics like Naruto, Dragon Ball, or Hajime no Ippo. Cats are also common on comic pages, like in Sailor Moon, Doraemon, or the infamous Grumpy Garfield. While Garfield loves eating lasagna, the cats in these stories prepare and cook noodles by hand, or more accurately, by paw. Comics about cat chefs make for an interesting commentary about the restaurant industry and the complications that arise when trying to fit into a world made for humans. These comics are filled with wholesome and humorous stories. We'll discuss the finer points of feline food fables in an effort to find out why they are so successful. I hope you're hungry. Our appetizer is the 4-panel comic, Neko Ramen. Neko Ramen was created by Kenji Sonishi in 2006. It ran for 5 volumes and was published in Monthly Comic Blade and Comic Blade Masamune. It was released in English by Tokyopop. The series returned in 2017 with the sequel Shinso Keiten, or Newly Opened Neko Ramen. It was published as a monthly webcomic on Makomi, where it is still available to read for free. Neko Ramen is a 4-panel comic, a design style which we will discuss a little later on. Let's take a look at the official description from Tokyopop. Taisho was a former kitten model who ran away from home and had a hard life on the streets, until the day he was saved by a kind ramen shop owner, who later served as his mentor. Now Taisho takes pride in his noodles, and is easily angered when customers are dissatisfied. The shop owner Taisho's name translates to boss or chief. Sonishi has written several other manga involving animals. There is Neko Neko Nihonshi, where historical characters are reimagined in cat form. There are also stories about cat detectives and cats playing baseball. In an article in 2016, Sonishi says he has always lived with cats, raising 5 strays over his life. Outside of felines, Sonishi has created comics about dogs, penguins, and even dinosaurs. Neko Ramen, like many of Sonishi's works, is in the comedy genre. The short-form comics mix gags and the gourmet. Sonishi draws in a cute style, filled with chibi designs. The characters and actions can be detailed when they need to be, alongside recipes and musings about life and the food industry. Sonishi does both the art and story for their comics. Since 1999, they have amassed an impressive catalog of more than a dozen works, as well as anime adaptations for Neko Ramen and Neko Neko Nihonshi. Next, we'll meet the wholesome and heartfelt team working the counter at Red Cat Ramen. Ramen Aka Neko, or Red Cat Ramen, is a slice-of-life series created by Yaman. The manga started in 2022, running in Shonen Jump Plus. It has 11 volumes so far and is ongoing. Let's take a look at the description from Shueisha. Meet Tamako, who's found her way into an interview at a ramen shop run solely by cats. When the feline manager asks if she likes cats, Tamako admits that she's actually more of a dog person, only to be hired on the spot. But her job description isn't quite what she expects. Rather than serving ramen, now she's a dedicated cat caretaker? I don't read a lot of slice-of-life comics, but I found myself engaged by Red Cat. The cyclical nature of running the shop provides a solid framework, but has enough variety and details to focus on. The relationships between the cats and customers have many happy and heartfelt moments. I was easily able to relate to Tomoko as she joined the new kitchen and began to learn the dynamics of the ramen shop. Ongyuman has a detailed art style and clearly loves to draw cats. There are action shots of cats running and cooking with human tools. In 2008, Ongyuman started publishing one-page comics of his walking tours. The series was called Real Excursion. A collection of the pages was released by Katakoa in 2010, chronicling a pilgrimage from Osaka to the Ise Shrine. Prior to Red Cat, Ongyuman released Yoru o Higashi ni, or East into the Night. This fantasy adventure has a different tone than Red Cat, but displays the same detailed art style. It ran as a 2-volume ebook for Shonen Jump Plus in 2019. Red Cat Ramen is an effortless blend of cuisine, cats, and comedy, and is an easy read. Now that we have a strong base for our dish, let's prepare the other ingredients. Part 2. The Similarities. You may have already noticed that these two comics have nearly identical titles. In Japanese, they are called Neko Ramen and Ramen Aka Neko, literally meaning cat ramen and ramen red cat, a difference of only one kanji. The authors of these manga have both published one-shots. In 1990, Sonishi started in Shogakukan's weekly Shonen Sunday with The Sea of the Flowing Sumo Wrestler Jacko. Ongyuman debuted in Shonen Jump Plus with Oni no Kage, or Demon's Shadow, in 2017. Both stories are in the cooking and comedy genre, and involve the day-to-day operations of a cat running a ramen shop. They use the odd situation of the cat chefs to set the mood and play for laughs. The two head chefs, Taisho and Bunzo, have a shared history. They were both taken in as strays by kind ramen shop owners. They were given food and began to work to pay off the debt. This started their love of flavors and cooking, and they are diligent to honor the memory of their mentors. Both chefs eventually upgraded from the stall to a larger shop. Looking at the covers of the first volume of each series, the shop proprietors are dressed in the same style. They both sport aprons and headbands and are ready to run their restaurants. The cats face the usual struggles of any restaurant owner: creating recipes, stocking ingredients, cleanliness, and retaining customers. Food service is a difficult industry. Many new restaurants fail, and others struggle to break even. Perishable products and pleasing people can make for a difficult combination. The pressure to stay competitive provides drama and tension for the stories. The routine of opening and closing the shop provides a familiar framework for isolated and ongoing stories. Red Cat Ramen includes details about noodle production and hand-pulled noodles, mirroring real-world recipes. Although in Red Cat, the noodles aren't pulled by hand, but made by Tiger Paw. The volume of noodles for a successful shop can require automation, and the Red Cat team is careful to balance upgrades with supply and demand. Neko Ramen has an extensive list of dishes displayed in its panels, and Taisho is always experimenting with new recipes, including onigiri, udon, and of course, dozens of types of ramen. Both shops showcase a variety of flavors. They encourage customers to try new dishes and work to improve their recipes. Red Cat's menu features staple ramen types like tonkotsu and shoyu. Tonkotsu uses pork bones to make a broth. It dates back to 1937 and is a local specialty in Kyushu. Shoyu instead has a soy sauce base and originated in Tokyo in the early 1900s. Shoyu is also mentioned in Neko Ramen, alongside other varieties like miso and shio, meaning salt, one of the oldest types of ramen. Taisho's shop features a wide menu, both of realistic dishes and those made to fit a joke. There are even international recipes. The World Fair highlights Italy, Germany, and India, showcasing ramen with pasta, beer, and naan, respectively. Both comics include common toppings such as slices of meat, boiled egg, seaweed, and green onion. The series also mentioned dumplings, a standard menu item for ramen shops. Red Cat has a plotline involving a gyoza special. The fried dumplings tended to sell out quickly. Gyoza dishes also make an appearance in Neko Ramen for the low price of 300 yen. Like many restaurants, these shops feature special menu items, often depending on the harvest and available ingredients. There are winter specials in Red Cat, like a hearty soup, designed to keep you warm in the cold weather. Neko's specials are a little more random, including birthday ramen and surprise ramen. Taisho experiments with curry, cakes, and desserts. Taisho also created cat noodles, softer and designed for a feline tongue, to help injured cats regain their strength. The ingredients and recipes in these stories aren't displayed with as much detail as they were in Our Friend Dungeon Meshi or in other comics like Our Dining Table. But there is still a lot of information included about prep and cooking. The cat chefs have the added difficulty of preparing this food for humans. Cats have different taste and flavor preferences. The average cat has around 5% of the taste buds humans do. Cats are obligate carnivores and have special receptors to taste umami flavors. They also have to be careful when cooking and tasting not to include any ingredients that might be poisonous to cats, such as onions, garlic, and scallions, which are all commonly found in ramen. Taste preferences are mentioned in both series, as well as the difficulty of seasoning when serving a mostly human clientele. They go over complementary pairings and how to properly balance a dish. Both kitchens struggle with cleanliness and keeping up with the volume of a busy restaurant. The team at Red Cat trains vigorously with a sensei, Ushimitsu Maru, to ensure they can manage their shedding, and Taisho often struggles with rice getting stuck to his paws. The humans can be skeptical of the skills and dishes prepared by the cats, but most are usually won over by the taste of the ramen, becoming regular visitors. Tanaka is an office worker who visits Taisho's shop. Tanaka is calm and polite despite receiving questionable food and service. Red Cat has many regulars, including office workers, students, chefs, and industry professionals. The counter of the ramen shop is a welcoming place for new and returning customers to socialize and enjoy a meal. Besides the customers, the cats also have to deal with human employees. The story of Red Cat starts with Tomoko being hired. She begins to work at the shop doing dishes and taking orders. She is also required to complete extra chores to help the cats, such as brushing to reduce shedding and prepping for service. The new hire acts as a stand-in for the reader, as they learn about the shop and the individual personalities of the cats. Taisho employs Taichi Amaya, elderly twins Toku and Taku, and the mysterious second shop guy. The chefs also hire cats to help staff the ramen shops. There are several cats and a tiger working at Red Cat. Sasaki was a stray with Bunzo and helps run the business by balancing the books. Sabu is sous chef and assists Bunzo in the kitchen, while Hana manages the front of house. The socially shy tiger Krishna rounds out the team by doing prep work in the back. In Neko Ramen, Taisho hires Mi-chan and her daughter Mimi-chan to work at the restaurant, although they are often sleeping on the job, a problem present in both stories. The cats in these stories display human-like characteristics and consciousness. They walk on two legs and use complicated kitchen tools. This is known as anthropomorphism, assigning human attributes to animals or non-human objects. We discussed this term while dungeon diving in a previous Versus episode. There is a long history of anthropomorphism in literature, reaching back to ancient Egyptian myths of the Sphinx or the Greek Minotaur. From Africa's Anansi or Inuit tales of foxes and hares, stories of intelligent animals are widespread. A paper released last year by Sony for the International Journal for Multidisciplinary Research discusses art, animals, and anthropomorphism. The paper states that the concept of anthropomorphism refers to assigning human traits to animals. It is not only confined to talking, but also involves behaving like humans, living in houses like them, singing, walking, cooking, and doing everything a human can easily do daily. In addition, these animals are shown dealing with daily life issues, just like humans do. The article goes on to discuss why anthropomorphism is such a common and ancient storytelling technique, especially in children's literature. Films like Aristocats and Secret of Nim feature anthropomorphized animals, while The Brave Little Toaster and Beauty and the Beast instead use household objects as stand-ins. Anthropomorphism is equally effective in comic form, as in Usagi Yojimbo, one of my all-time favorite comics. We look for ourselves in the animals, and use them to represent emotions or character schema. Perhaps in part due to their animal characters, Both of these stories were popular enough to warrant anime adaptations. In 2006, a 13-episode animated series for Neko Ramen was released. Think Corporation and Ken Media produced the series as an ONA, or Original Net Animation, with brief 2-minute episodes. Each episode has a different animator and style. 2 years later, a second ONA season was released with the same format. It was titled Neko Ramen, My Soy Sauce Flavor. In 2024, a Red Cat anime was licensed by Crunchyroll, with animation from E&H Production Studio. It has 12 episodes so far, with a second season coming soon. Both anime have opening themes by famous musicians. Neko's opening, Kimi wa Taisho, or You're the Boss, released in 2008 and was written by Katsumi Tanaka. Tanaka created music for popular video games such as Puyo Puyo. Red Cat's opening, Akaneko, was released by Wednesday Campanella in July of last year. The electronic pop group has recorded themes for several other anime. Besides anime, both series also have other adaptations. Neko had a 2011 spin-off titled Cat Ramen Story Thomas the Kitten. It was published and serialized by Mag Garden. The story is a prequel to Neko Ramen and involves the early life of Taisho, fitting in with family and growing as a kitten. Neko Ramen was also turned into a feature film with the tantalizing title Pussy Soup in 2008. The film has puppets interacting with live actors and blends comedy with adult themes. Red Cat has a novel titled Today's Customer Service is the Best, released by Jump J Books in 2024. A Red Cat video game was released the same year. It is a simulation game where you take control of the ramen shop and manage the cats and customers. It is available to play on mobile and features voice actors from the anime. There was also a radio show called Ramen Akaneko, a lovely in-store broadcast. It ran on the Hibiki radio station in June 2024 and is archived on YouTube on the Good Smile channel. It was hosted by Kurumi Orihara, the voice actor for Tamako in the anime. Red Cat also has a run of figures. Bunzo and Sasaki vinyl miniatures are available as Sega Crane Game prizes. Both of these series are a success and have blended comedy and cooking into quirky comics. With our dish nearing completion, we need to portion the pieces and finish plating. Part 3. The Differences. While they are both certainly cat chefs, Taisho and Bunzo are different breeds. Bunzo is an orange tabby, while Taisho is a white American Shorthair. These two manga were released more than 15 years apart. They have different cultural environments and comic contemporaries. Neko was released in 2006, alongside popular works like Gintama and Fruits Basket. Global demand for manga was on the rise after the successful exports of the late 90s. Red Cat came out in 2022, alongside a new age of works like Spy Family and Demon Slayer, both of which we've covered in previous Versus episodes. The growing popularity of manga and anime meant there was a bigger audience by the time of Red Cat's release. According to an article this year by Nippon.com, sales in Japan have seen growth year over year, and have recently had another boom, thanks to the rise of digital readers and streaming services. Besides their release date, there is also a difference in the length of the series. Neko has fewer volumes, finishing with 5 in total. Red Cat has 11 volumes so far and is still being published. This is reflected in the length of their anime adaptations. Neko has 2 13-episode seasons, whereas Red Cat has 1 12-episode season, with a second season coming soon. Red Cat has full-length anime episodes, whereas Neko's ONA shorts are only a few minutes long. Red Cat also has a consistent art and animation style, instead of an anthology of artists. The full episodes allow for longer sequences and more information than the snapshots of Neko Ramen. Just like the animated versions, these comics differ in style and format, especially in their design and panel layout. Red Cat reads like a typical manga, with around 15 to 20 pages per chapter and full-page panels. The panels vary in size and shape to suit the needs of the story. On the other hand, Neko Ramen is a 4-page gag strip known as a yonkoma. Yonkoma literally means 4 frame, and the format will be familiar to fans of newspaper funnies and Sunday strips. Yonkoma comics date back at least as far as 1902 and the Meiji era. Kitazawa Rakuten is cited as an early example of the form in Japan. Yonkoma follow a specific narrative structure known as a Kisho Tenketsu. There is the ki, or introduction, sho, or development, ten, or twist, and finally ketsu, or conclusion. Yonkoma are well suited for comedy, as there is a clear pacing to follow. The first two panels act as setup, and the twist and conclusion work well as punchlines. This 4-line format is also common in other parts of Asia, like in poetry from China, as well as Korean and Vietnamese storytelling. 4-panel comics are also popular outside of Asia, including Peanuts and the aforementioned Grumpy Garfield. France and Belgium have a vibrant comic history with their bande dessinée. While discussing panel layout and design, it is worth mentioning the masterful Calvin and Hobbes, another comic with a cat. Bill Watterson regularly played with uneven panel divisions and dabbled with numerous art styles, pushing the expectations of readers. While full-page serialized manga like Red Cat are more common today, Yonkoma are still a popular style, including modern works like Bocchi the Rock or Stardust Telepath. Yonkoma are often included as extras in between chapters or at the end of volumes. This lets the authors have fun with their characters, using humor and more chibi designs. Hits like One Piece and Our Friend Black Clover use Yonkoma to highlight side characters, explain extra lore, and act as notes from author to reader. Yonkoma can even end up being published as spin-off series, such as My Hero Smash or Bleach for Coma. Orson Welles is quoted to have said, "The enemy of art is the absence of limitations." This is true across various art forms. Composers can limit the instruments at their disposal, just as sculptors can restrict their materials. In the world of comics, Yonkoma's clear structure and panel length pushes authors in a direction. This mold can be freeing, removing some of the decision-making required for the creator. Beyond their paneling, these two comics have differences in art style. Looking at the covers of the first volumes again, we can see that while they are similar, Red Cat is more detailed in its depiction of cooking equipment, movement, and action. Red Cat's pages are full of detailed drawings, with numerous breeds of both short and long hair. The intricate muscles of Krishna the large tiger show off a different sense of scale. The other cats have complex and realistic movement, dashing to prepare and fulfill orders. Neko has a simpler chibi style. While it certainly has action and detailed environments, characters are exaggerated, and everything feels a bit more like a cartoon. Sunichi sometimes dabbles outside of the Yonkoma format, with short comic specials, extra chapters with full-page comics featuring additional adventures. These specials can be silent, relying on the drawings to carry the story, and often lead to physical comedy punchlines. The difference in design makes Red Cat feel more like a cohesive story and world, whereas Neko is more tongue-in-cheek. While both are in the comedy genre, Red Cat is a fully fleshed-out slice-of-life story. It has cozy plotlines and recurring characters. Tamako develops and comes out of her shell as she bonds with her new team. The cats also progress as they face and overcome their own challenges. The world of Red Cat is surprisingly realistic, with a lot of thought given to the logistics of sentient talking cats living with humans. There are human citizen certificates. Cats are required to pass a test in order to gain legal status. In this world, wealthy owners leave their entire estate to cats in their will, creating felines with status and influence. Business owners like Bunzo and Sasaki generate wealth of their own. Not all cats in the universe talk or work, making the team at Red Cat unique. There are many obstacles and challenges for cats in this realistic world. They have to navigate dealing with obsessed animal lovers. Krishna needs to make sure they get enough calories to fuel an adult tiger. Despite a challenging environment, the cats have enriching lives. They have hobbies like playing the violin or competing in video game tournaments. They make their way in a world designed for humans. While Red Cat is mostly lighthearted, the glimpses into multi-species society add realistic dynamics and philosophy. The most common human character in Red Cat is Tamako, an employee. This is ideal for marking progress and adding a sense of growth in this realistic world. On the other hand, Tanaka is the most common reoccurring character in Neko, and is a customer. This provides an opportunity for Tanaka to sample dishes and a more casual atmosphere for jokes and punchlines. Tanaka offsets and complements Taisho's hijinks. Besides their story and characters, there are differences in critical reception and popularity. Neko has more adaptations, including a full-length film. On the other hand, Red Cat is just getting started and is already winning awards. Red Cat won 5th place in the web category at the Next Manga Awards in 2022. It placed in the top 15 on the Nationwide Bookstore Employees Recommended Comics of 2023, proving that it is well loved by members of the industry. The first 3 volumes of Neko Ramen have sold more than 200,000 copies according to Manga Codex, placing it alongside Clamp School Detectives on the charts. Red Cat regularly made the Oricon weekly charts for best-selling manga. The latest volume sold more than 20,000 copies in a week when it was released in June. It is already among the 500th best-selling manga of the year. While Red Cat might be on pace to outsell Neko Ramen, Sonishi has an extensive catalog and has published more works. Beyond everything mentioned so far, Sonishi has even more comics, including a series about a recycling robot. More recently, the 16th volume of Neko Neko Nihonshi was released earlier this year. Despite their differences, these are both easy-to-read stories that are sure to make you crave a hot bowl of ramen. Thanks for listening this far into the video. I have spent most of my life living with cats, and reading about cat chefs was an enjoyable few months. If you like one of these stories, you'll probably like the other, and they have both proven that feline fables can be successful franchises. If you have suggestions for comics for the next Versus episode, please leave me a comment below, and let me know if you prefer ramen or a different noodle dish. Take care, and happy reading.